happened right down Southwest 77th Avenue here in the parking lot of Pata's apartment building. And tonight, Miami-Dade police are searching for his killer.
Yeah, Brian Pata was a defensive star in the Miami Hurricanes.
He was going to be in the NFL in just a few months.
I said, what do you mean they killed him? Like, why? Why would somebody do this?
Was just coming home. I had just gotten home from work. And as I answered the phone, it was my mom. And my mom shared with me, "You haven't heard? Sydney is dead?" I just paused and started screaming.
When Brian Pata's mother got to the scene and she was told that her son had been killed, I mean, it was devastating. It looked like one of those scenes you'd see in a movie of a mother just wailing, and it was heartbreaking.
Give me my baby! Give me my baby! Give me my baby!
It was a scream of pain that was just coming from her soul, her gut. And I was like, oh my God, this is real. She hugged me, Edric. Sydney is gone. Sydney is gone. I was like, oh my, I started to cry so bad.
My son, very good son, never have a problem with nobody. You know, oh my God, it's gone.
You're watching the rawest of emotions. You're watching someone deal with a tragedy in real time. This is a very private, emotional moment, but it's being broadcast on live TV. And little did we know in that moment how much more devastating it would become.
Life has always been a challenge and obstacles of test of who I am and what I will become. My name is Brian Pata, and this is my story.
We're at the stadium right now. It's game time.
Brian Pata was larger than life.
What's up, y'all?
His aura, it just stuck out. He always gets everybody to kind of gravitate towards him.
Feel me? Check my biceps out.
We got those cameras like the year before.
Come here, dog. See what's up to the camera, dog.
As soon as he got it, you know, everybody was walking around with him. Everybody always taking videos.
It's a true encapsulation of who this person was at that age, living in Miami, being a star football player.
Take off your shirt.
Yeah, Brian, he was always filming. He had to be in front of the cameras. He had to be recording him dancing.
If you look at him, you know, it may be a little intimidating, but he was a great person. He had a great heart, great spirit.
His smile could just light up a room when he came in. He made everybody laugh.
It was just, he had a soft heart and really loved people. You could see this huge guy that looks, you know, this football player, but for me, I looked past that. I knew the soft side of him. That's the brother I remember.
Brian Pata came from a big family. He had an even larger extended family when you consider the football team, the people in his life and community who looked up to him.
My mom, she's from Haiti.
Like most parents, to be successful in this country, you know, you have the dream, the American dream, that come in and work hard.
It was quite a struggle for my mom, you know, single parent, home, you know what I mean, try to make ends meet.
It's a total of 9 children. So there were 6 boys and 3 girls. Brian was the last of the 9.
He was never called Brian at home.
We never called him Brian. Everybody outside knew of him as Brian, but we knew him as Sydney.
Brian Pata, like a lot of people in Miami, didn't have it easy. They moved around a lot, spent a lot of time in Little Haiti and the North Miami.
Brian and his brothers, they were sports crazy. For them, it was a way to get away from some of the troubles in the neighborhoods that they lived in.
Sports was for us pretty much our only way to get to college, to afford college. That's why part of the reason why we worked so hard at it.
When I first met Brian, I was just like, wow, this guy is unbelievable talent.
Brian physically was so gifted in high school. You knew this was somebody who could play at a high level in college.
Brian was heavily recruited out of high school.
But he knew he wanted to stay in this region, and he wanted to stay in this area, but it ultimately came down to being close to his mom.
There was only one school for Brian, and that was the University of Miami.
He swarmed and brought down Brian Patta. He has a motor that will not stop.
Miami Hurricanes in the early 2000s, hands down, is the best team of all time.
Brian Patta was a high-performing player on a team that was highly regarded.
A lot of people think he would have had a long, substantial career in the NFL.
With Brian, his biggest hope was to make it to the NFL, be as successful as possibly can be, in order for him to take care of his family.
He was a big baby. He'll be sitting in the locker, and like he'll just be laughing, like, what are you laughing at? What you laughing at? And he'll be listening to a message his mom just left for him. And she'll be like, Brian, I dream you today. And like, it used to make me laugh too.
She babied him. I mean, she loved him so much, you know what I mean? And we all did.
Brian would be on the phone with his mom. Every single day they talked, he always made sure he checked in with her.
This trajectory that Brian Patta was on was not his alone. His mother, she was on this journey with him.
What are you making?
Oh man, I'm cooking little fish potatoes.
Right. Fish.
He was going to experience the American dream, which is to have a better life than your parents had, and to share that with them. And that whole trajectory was just derailed.
Navigate police and fire with the emergency. Hello? Yes? Hello? What happened there?
Somebody got shot. The guy's on the ground. I don't know where he's bleeding from, but he's on the ground, man.
When police arrive, they start cordoning off the area. At some point, Miami-Dade Police realizes that they need an assistant state's attorney's office representative to be there. They phoned Herbert Walker, who was on call that night.
By the time I got to the scene, you could already see people beginning to gather around it.
The night of the shooting, there was just a lot of police lights, people in the area, everybody wanting to find out what happened. And everybody sort of calling each other, what's going on, what happened.
After the initial incident, I remember meeting with friends and family members just to gather information. My experience as a prosecutor, time is of the essence, and the clock is ticking.
In the hours after Brian's murder, the Miami football team didn't know if this was an attack on Brian or if this was going to be an attack on multiple players.
That summer, another teammate got shot a couple months prior to Brian Patta. Ambush coming out of his house. I was scared myself, and nobody knows what happened. I thought somebody was trying to kill me too.
This is Murder at the U. I'm Paula Levine.
I got started on this in the spring of 2018. We were just gathering sound. At some point, we realized we had enough sound and enough of a story to make it a true podcast.
The podcast itself didn't really come to fruition until the story seemed a little more complete.
From 30 for 30 Podcasts.
We had a killer amongst us.
Murder at the U.
The podcast is the result of 8 years of investigative reporting by ESPN.
I would say we've interviewed more than 100 people. We've gathered more than 5,000 police documents. Anything we've been able to get our hands on has helped us in our investigation to this point.
A star player on a major college football team, murdered near campus, just a few months shy of the NFL draft.
Brian Pata was an outstanding defensive lineman with UM and was being talked about as an NFL prospect until about 7:30 tonight when he was shot and killed in the parking lot of his apartment building.
Give me my baby! Give me my baby! Give me my baby!
A woman believed to be Pata's mother, wearing a UM jersey with his number on it, collapsed as she rushed to the scene. Other family and friends were overcome by the news.
In the weeks leading up to Brian Pata's death, his family had noticed some things that made them think that Brian thought something bad was going to happen to him.
I last saw Brian that Sunday on the 4th.
Yeah.
I cooked a huge meal for him, my mom and I. He came over and he just seemed kind of just really mellow, quiet.
He just spaced out. And his head was down the whole time, kept rubbing his hair, and his hair was in front of his face, just kept rubbing his head like this.
His spirit was off, but we don't know. He couldn't explain it.
And I remember him leaving, and he said, "Thank you, sis," and gave me a big hug. It seemed like he was so far away from me, but he was literally right there. And I was like, okay, I love you. I'll see you soon. And not knowing that would be my last conversation with him.
November 7th, 2006, pretty average day for Brian. He and his teammate, Eric Moncour, decide that they're going to go register for spring classes.
We went over, we registered for classes, and then we went over and got something to eat. After that, we went back to the Heck athletic facility. We had a great day of practice.
After practice, we were told by one of Brian's teammates, Chris Zellner, that he was in the locker room.
There was a call that Chris Zellner overheard where it seemed like somebody was threatening Brian.
Just happened to be just me and Brian left in the locker room, and then he received a phone call. It started off as a normal call, and then it started getting heated. Brian started to say, like, you, if you want to come see me, you know where the I'm at, you. They hung up. I looked over, I didn't want to be too nosy, and I was just like, hey man, are you good? Like, you straight? So that was the angriest I've ever seen Brian Pata, like, ever.
After practice is done, Brian gets in his car, he's heading home. He sees some of the younger teammates. He offers them a ride home and drops them off.
Brian arrives home around 6:57. He's on the phone with his brother Fednall, and he says to him, "I'm gonna let you go now, I just pulled in."
Brian pulls into the parking lot in front of his apartment complex and exits his car. Within, police estimate, probably 2 minutes of that, he gets shot in the head.
Brian's girlfriend, Jada Brody, says she heard a bang and people arguing. Jada goes outside to investigate. She sees Brian Pata laying face down on a sidewalk, feet from his car. She thinks he's joking because he's a jokester and realizes that there's a pool of blood around his head.
There's police cars, fire rescue everywhere. They basically gave me the quick overview of what had happened and told me that Mr. Pata was found face down on the sidewalk. I saw a large black male just about 20 feet from the entrance to his apartment. There appeared to be an entrance wound to the back of the head, and it was a single shot. Based upon the fact that we didn't find any shell casings, it was suspected that it would have been a smaller caliber revolver-style handgun.
It was clearly not done as a robbery. They found Brian's wallet. There were 9 $100 bills still in it, his cell phone. Like, no one had stolen anything.
To me, this might have been more in the line of a hit, a targeted assassination, if you will.
All through the night, the police canvassed the Colony Apartments, knocking on every door, but they turned up no eyewitnesses. There was no security camera footage. There was no obvious trace of the killer other than the bullet that had pierced Brian's skull.
It was the worst feeling I ever had in my whole life. As an older brother, you always want to protect your younger brothers, and I felt like I wasn't there to protect them. It was awful, awful.
Who could have wanted a rising football star with a promising future dead? Detectives began asking questions that night, asking Brian's family and teammates if he had any enemies, if he'd been in any fights, if he was worried for his safety. Turns out, the answer to all of those questions was yes.
The University of Miami.
This is Miami. There is a dangerous, sexy, cool reputation in this town.
Brian Potter.
Get at you at the end of the game.
And if you are a college football player at the University of Miami,
It's game time. Time to get serious.
you are going to get caught up in that fast living lifestyle very quickly.
But you know this your boy, entertainer, Big Patter. You know what I'm saying? Just showing y'all my cards or whatnot. The dome, baby.
That was Brian. Yeah, he was that flashy.
Check you out on my inside. You check me out. Ooh, wee.
He was very flashy.
Back in the days, I used to do all the UM players' cars.
K. Brown. This EJ don't.
Brian came to the shop. This is what he wanted right here. This is his favorite color right here. Candy apple gold, the syrup look. He loved that.
Brian's love of cars came during a time when a lot of kids his age were doing a lot of the same thing. He had a great joy of buying old classic cars, fixing them up, and then flipping them on the internet.
Just showing y'all my work, what I could do to my cars. Flamed out good.
He enjoyed that aspect of taking something, making it beautiful, and then trying to get a buck off of it.
That was one of the things that Brian wanted to do once he got successful and got paid in the pros, is open up a car shop.
Jamming to that Rick Ross. On our way to my apartment now. US 1 going south.
In 2006, MTV Cribs was a show that was still popular.
On this episode of MTV Cribs, NFL Edition.
Welcome, MTV Cribs. I thought, well, this would be really cool if we could start doing this with local athletes and sort of make it a local story. I was working for the Miami Herald. I was a high school / college football writer. And because of my long relationship with Brian Potter, I just felt like he was the perfect candidate. Because he was one of those top-ranked players who didn't feel like he was too big for you. He wanted to help tell his story. I attached a microphone with a tape recorder to Brian's shirt, and we recorded it.
What up, y'all? It's my crib. I'm Brian Potter, University of Miami, defensive tackle.
What's up?
If you walk in, this is it's a townhouse, 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. It's a living room. We got not that much stuff, but it's decent for athletes. I broke the TV. I kind of spilled juice on it. So no TV there, but a cable box. Check out the kitchen. We keep it clean. Probably got one dish in here, one cup. Going upstairs to the room. This is my room. It's all right. It's not, spectacular or nothing like that, but this is a little collage of me and my girl.
Jada Brody was, at the time of Brian's death, his girlfriend. They had been together for exactly a year. She had moved into his apartment earlier that summer.
I introduced Brian to his girlfriend, Jada. My name is Dave Howell, and I was friends and teammates with Brian Patta. We were at a on-campus party, and he ended up noticing her from like afar. And he was just like, you know, who's that? I was like, oh, I know her. I went to high school with her. Her name is Jada. He was just like, you know, can you hook us up? And I introduced them.
That's Jada? Yeah. Brian was not, you know, some serial dater and all that. He was just a typical college student. And I think at that point, he just kind of settled down a little bit, wanted to, you know, to take this relationship a little more serious with Jada.
They had their fights, they had their love. They were just a typical college couple.
The day that he was killed, the night before, they were celebrating their 1-year anniversary. So it seemed like they were, you know, they were on cloud nine to me.
According to what she told detectives, Jada was in the apartment cleaning out her dog's kennel. She told police that she heard an argument outside, possibly Brian's voice, and went to see what was going on. She saw Brian lying on the ground. At first, she thought he was playing a prank. Then she saw blood around his head. Jada said she ran back upstairs to call 911.
You never know who might be a possible suspect, and at that point, everybody's a suspect.
One of the things that police looked into and that we looked into as well were some conflicts that Brian apparently had with Jada's family.
The police found that in the spring of 2006, Jada told her father, Jerry, that Brian had broken up with her because he suspected her of cheating on him. Jerry told police that he then called Brian to warn him not to speak disrespectfully about his daughter. The conversation with Jerry led detectives to Jada's twin brother, Jerome. Jerome Brody had been in and out of jail for various offenses, and his father said that Jerome would have killed anyone who messed with the family.
You might have a situation where a brother, a sibling, might feel strongly enough that he might take matters into his own hands.
About a month after Brian's murder, Jada Brody's brother, Jerome Brody, ends up getting arrested in Boston, and as part of the arrest, police find some guns in a vehicle. Miami-Dade gets this information that they have those guns tested to see if they're a match to the bullet found in Brian's skull.
Miami-Dade police flew up to Boston, tried to speak with Jerome. He was unwilling to speak, but those guns that Jerome had didn't match any possibility to Brian.
We did our due diligence, and we couldn't place him in the area.
Jada's twin brother and other members of her family were deemed not to be involved.
The police started going down all of these different rabbit holes, but they actually were starting to look at someone much closer to Brian.
Hello?
Whether Brian got mixed up with the wrong girl is one of the questions that certainly the investigative team looked into. Is there an ex-boyfriend that is upset that she left him? Crimes of passion cause passionate action.
Brian Patta, a defensive lineman for the Miami Hurricanes.
Brian Patta was shot and killed. Brian Patta was a great leader.
A team leader.
A selfless, fun-loving kid. Teachers loved him.
A tragedy. We miss Brian Patta.
Brian was laid to rest at the New Birth Baptist Church in Miami.
The amount of people that was coming in, I think it was like over 2,000 people.
I remember my mom passing out, crying.
Passed out completely.
Yeah, completely passed out.
A lot of our teammates was there. You know, it was a sad day, man.
It was a hard day. Seeing a lot of teammates break down and start crying. It was a really tough day for the University of Miami.
Look at this moment here.
At the first game after Brian's murder, the team kneeled for a moment of prayer and silent reflection midfield with this big banner
Brian Pada's image, the slain Hurricane teammate, a banner that fans made, and the team gathering around it at midfield.
That was rough. We were just like numb, you know, like you didn't feel like playing no football, you know what I mean? Like the teammate just got killed.
Months before Brian was murdered, one of his friends had purchased for him a suit to wear to draft day.
Brian had picked us out to wear this draft, and they had it all out. And that's when it hit me then, just looking at that. It's supposed to be the best night of his life. And this is the worst. You got to bury him in it.
There's an alternate universe in which this tragedy doesn't occur, where Brian Pata goes on to the NFL, and he would have been a multimillionaire. It would have been another Miami Hurricanes American dream story.
Everybody wanted to find out what happened. Just a lot of questions. Who did this? Who would have wanted to kill Brian Pata?
In the hours after Brian's murder, the Miami football team decided to bring all of the players back to the athletic center, the Heck Center, to brief them all on what had happened. The one glaring thing that people noticed was that there was one player not there.
Brian had an issue with one player on the team, and that was Rashawn Jones. He didn't like him, they didn't get along. He's not a good person.
Brian Pata's name was buzzing at that time. There was a lot of talk about his future, a lot of hype about him going into the NFL draft. Rashawn Jones was more of a background player. You didn't hear his name a whole lot.
Rashawn Jones was a safety on the football team, a defensive back, really didn't play very much.
I looked at him as like a cool young guy, jokester. You could tell by the way he worked on the field. He was somebody who was passionate about the game.
He was a ladies' man. I mean, I knew every time I seen him, he was trying to, get at the girls.
In the early days of the investigation, police came across a specific beef that Brian had with Rashawn, and it was largely over Jada Brody, Brian's girlfriend.
Prior to Brian and Jada being in a relationship, it was rumored that Rashawn and Jada had some form of relationship. That is what the friction that was there between Brian and Rashawn.
According to some of Brian's teammates, there would be taunting about, she's my girl. There was definite jealousy and factors there that put those two at odds over who she liked, who she was dating, and what her history was with both guys.
He just said that the guy kept trying to fight him, and so they kept getting to these little fights.
In 2004, there was an incident between Rashawn and Brian that had happened on campus in one of their dorm rooms.
The dorm fight, me, Brian, and Eric were walking up to Eric's room, and at that time we saw Rashawn leaving out of the room. We were just kind of like confused, like, why is he in there?
I don't know. He said he was looking for DVDs. He was trying to apologize to me, but I really didn't want to hear it. I was just tired. I was ready to go to sleep because I had to be up in a few hours.
Rashawn ended up trying to, leave out of the room, and then Brian ended up punching Rashawn. And me and Eric kind of looked at each other like, did this really just escalate like that fast?
I broke it up. When Rashawn was walking out, he told Brian he might as well go ahead and clip up.
They heard Rashawn say to Brian, "You better clip up," meaning that he better get a gun.
I was like, y'all about to shoot each other right now? Get out of my room. You know what I mean? I'm about to go to sleep. I'll holler at you.
Rashawn Jones threatened Brian, so you never take anybody who threatened your life lightly like that.
I don't think that he looked at that as like a threat. I mean, he never really mentioned it after. You know what I mean?
Here's what we had learned about Rashawn. Rashawn had conflicts with Brian. He would have known the Hurricanes' practice schedule and what time Brian would arrive home. According to the police report, there were no eyewitnesses to the shooting. No murder weapon was ever found. and there was no record of any physical evidence linking Rashawn to the crime.
Clearly the name Rashawn Jones came up, but it was on a list of many names that we were looking at.
Initially, police looked into a broad string of incidents involving the Miami football team, but they weren't able to make any connection to Brian's shooting. As the investigation continued and police widened their search, they realized there was a long list of people who may have wanted to harm Brian.
At one point, the police had been alerted by a jailhouse snitch that his cellmate had allegedly confessed to him one night.
As part of vetting, the police had the informant take a polygraph.
No arrests as of yet as police in Miami continue their investigation. Brian Pata, senior defensive lineman for Miami, gunned down at the age of 22.
The murder of Brian Pata took on mythological proportions in this town. It was like everybody had a different theory.
We learned that Brian had a busy life. It wasn't just football and his girlfriend. He was involved in a lot of things.
The investigation at the start went in so many different directions.
There were so many different angles they were trying to go with. I felt like the police just didn't know which leads to really truly go for.
It wasn't a limited field of suspects. You need to follow the evidence.
One of the tips that came into the Miami-Dade police was that if they wanted to find Brian Pata's killer, they needed to look for ties with the Zopound gang.
Zopound's a well-known gang in the Miami area. They were notorious for doing crimes of great violence. Zopound was featured as one of the bad guys in one of the Will Smith, Martin Lawrence Bad Boys movies.
Yo, dry off, sweetheart. That's Ice Pick. He said the Haitian Zopound's about to do a rep. Let's move.
There is no indication that Brian was a member of this gang, but there were members of the Zopound gang who told us that they were aware of Brian, that they knew him.
The homicide detectives weren't able to bring back anything that would tie a specific action of the Zopound to this incident.
There was a lot of talk about Brian getting into fights with some pretty potentially dangerous characters.
Oh boy.
It is not uncommon at all to see bad blood lead to fists being thrown in a nightclub in Miami.
A few months before Brian is killed, Brian and some of his teammates are at a club called Club Life. And they get into an altercation with some guys there who belong to a gang.
There was definitely a physical confrontation.
Brian's throwing punches and he's clearly involved in the fight. And as they are leaving, members of this gang are telling them, we're gonna come after you for this. And one of the teammates with Brian at the time is calling Brian and telling him that, someone's got a hit out on us.
At first, Brian was definitely worried about these guys. His girlfriend found him sleeping in the closet where he kept his shotgun. And I think that was certainly a reasonable indication of concern or fear or paranoia on Brian's part.
The Club Life investigation didn't seem to go anywhere, but then a few months later, the police got another promising lead, an alleged jailhouse confession. There was a jailhouse informant. His name was Bernard Brinson, and he claimed that he was having a conversation with another inmate by the name of Emmanuel Jones. And Emmanuel Jones would end up telling him that he got paid to do a hit and that he believed that the person he got paid to do the hit on was Brian Pata.
They went and actually administered a lie detector test, and the jailhouse snitch passed the lie detector test.
Back in 2007, police had quickly ruled Emmanuel Jones out as a suspect.
There's evidence in the police records that that man had an alibi because he was in jail on November 7th, 2006.
But we discovered the police had the timeline of his arrest all wrong. That robbery took place in August 2006. But Jones wasn't actually arrested until December, a month after Brian's murder.
Miami police did not respond to our requests for comment.
Years later, I was able to actually track down the alleged confessor, Emmanuel Jones. And I got him on the phone, and I was trying to bring him back to that time period in 2006.
If someone were to say, hey, you confessed to this murder, do you remember where you were in November?
I was nowhere around no murder. I don't know anything about no murder.
They wrote he had an alibi. He was in jail for stealing a dirt bike in an armed robbery.
There was all this talk of jailhouse confessions and tales of professional hits. All of this just swirled because there was just this emptiness that the police couldn't fill.
You hear this person's the lead person, and next week someone else is the lead person.
When it took longer than 6 months, all of a sudden you're like, okay, like what's going on?
Now a tragedy that has no closure, no conclusion, and no answers. The murder of Brian Pata.
It takes too long to know who killed him. I don't know what to say anymore. Every day I'm talking, we try to call the detective to ask them questions. They don't want to pick up the phone, we leave them message, they don't call back.
It feels like Miami-Dade needed to do something new. Their hand was almost forced into doing something creative.
As a reporter, I try to stay out of the story. But sometimes the work you do to get the story and what you uncover changes it. That's exactly what happened here.
To my knowledge, this is the first time a police entity has ever reached out to ESPN for help with a case like this.
Welcome inside Radio City Music Hall.
The 2007 NFL Draft is now open.
In April of 2007, the NFL Draft was held at Radio City Music Hall.
The Chicago Bears take Greg Olsen, tight end, Miami.
Seeing those guys that he knew and get picked, it was real sad to watch.
Introduce yourself, man.
I am Greg Olsen. How you doing, Pat?
Greg Olsen and Brian were good friends on the team. After Brian's death, Greg Olsen went on to have an incredible NFL career and a long broadcast career after.
It reminds you of what could have been for Brian, the life that he could have lived.
It isn't entirely clear to us how this case ended up becoming a cold case. There was a ton of media attention at the time, but fell off.
The family reached a point that they were very frustrated with the police efforts to finding answers.
When you look at the police file, you see very, very little new inserts from 2010 to 2016. It was almost like nothing had been done. It's March of 2017, and the family is holding a joint press conference with Miami-Dade PD.
It's hurt. It's hurt. 10 years now. We don't hear nothing from my son.
Brian's mother turns very accusatory towards Miami-Dade police.
They don't work in the case so well. The system don't work. I have to say something. It's hurt me.
I think it was the pressure from the family that finally prompted the Miami-Dade Police Department to reach out to the media to see, okay, look, the family wants us to do something. Let's at least make the effort to put the word out there again and see if we can generate some leads.
Maybe now, 10 years later, somebody who might have information might be an adult now. Maybe they'll do the right thing and make that one phone call that we need.
So in the summer of 2017, Miami-Dade police reached out to ESPN in the hopes that we would produce a feature,
Wait for this matchup tonight.
hoping that it might trigger something in somebody watching it. We discussed it internally and thought, let's see if there's something more to this story than just a College Game Day piece.
You know, we're ready to kind of jump in with both feet and then see what we can do to move the case forward, if you will.
That sounds great to me. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
We would ask lots of questions. A lot of them they couldn't answer, but a lot of them they did.
What do you know, if anything, about maybe what led up to it, or if there was an argument or anything?
We don't know if he had bad blood with anybody. As of right now, we really don't have a motive.
One of the things that really drives me in an investigation is looking at, okay, the people who were supposed to be doing a good job at this, what did they do? I wanted to dig further into this.
Once we started putting in requests for actual police evidence and police files, it quickly became a little bit adversarial.
There are a lot of questions we have about witness interviews, phone records, and any other possible leads that you guys have gone down that we would love for you to share with us.
That's stuff that is, since it's still active, we can't disclose.
They did start to provide some documents, but the problem was giant sections of them were blacked out. If we didn't get the information, we couldn't tell a complete story.
Greg Cooper and Dean Jackson are members of a cold case unit in Utah. We realized we needed some out-of-house guidance on how we had perceived Miami-Dade's police work.
They're former investigators, law enforcement, and when they looked at this, they agreed. There were some of these angles that the police hadn't ruled out.
There was some redaction to those reports, so without having that information, it created questions about the investigation and how far it went, how thorough it was.
One of the things that I just can't get over with this is that there were some just basic omissions and errors in this that you would not think that a police department of that size would be making. It's like, you know, in 2006, there weren't text messages.
Did you guys look through Brian's texts from what was available on the physical phone?
I don't believe there was text messaging back then. That was the old style flip phones, you know, those push-to-talk phones were the old things that I don't believe there was texting.
By the time we went back to them a year later, we had learned a lot about Brian's life. And at that point, we were asking them questions which they didn't even have answers to.
We were told by Chris Zellner, Brian's teammate, that in the locker room after practice, the day of the shooting, Brian was engaged in a very heated phone call. Was that call investigated?
I don't remember that individual's name. I don't think I personally interviewed him. Obviously, that's somebody that I would like to speak to also.
After we all got the news that Brian passed away, I immediately told the police officers, and they just kind of like, okay, thank you, we'll take that into consideration. And that was it. No follow-up questions, no like, do you think you heard anything? Do you think you heard a name? Nothing like that. I never heard from them ever again.
The caller that Chris Zellner had overheard is a cause for concern in that it was never identified who the caller was or what the nature of the conversation was. That should have been tracked down, identified, and interviewed.
When the police department was being reticent with us about information, that really made me curious because you wanted us to do this, like you wanted this exposure. And what is it that you don't want to tell us?
It appeared as though the Miami-Dade police turned on the very people that they had recruited into this effort to help solve this cold case.
ESPN decided that the only way to try to get an unredacted copy of the files was to sue Miami-Dade police.
So we're here on the case of ESPN Inc. versus Miami-Dade County et al., case number 2020-5029-C01.
Eventually, we were ruled against, but while on the stands, we were able to get several officers of Miami-Dade to admit.
Does MDPD know who killed Brian Pata?
Yeah, we have a strong belief as to who's responsible for his death.
And that revelation confirmed what was previously released to us by accident in the heavily redacted police reports. In some of the initial batches of records that they gave us, they included dossiers on a lot of the people they looked into. The only cover page that had the word suspect on it was the cover page for Rashawn Jones.
We knew that was important. They forgot to redact it.
That was the first indication that they were not being truthful with us.
Do you have a specific suspect in mind?
No. I mean, anybody, we didn't have a specific suspect.
The police are not required to be truthful to reporters. However, in denying they ever had a main suspect, they made us even more skeptical of their information. They had considered Rashawn Jones a suspect from the beginning.
In November of 2020, our investigative team decided that it was ready to publish something with everything that we had learned.
That photo that was featured so prominently of all the players on the field kneeling by that banner of Brian's face will look very different based on the players who are pictured in it.
Place your hands behind your back for me. You've been placed under arrest.
My mom, she still talks to him, and we help her clean the gravesite. The heartbreak of not knowing. There's not a day that my mom did not wake up. She's in tears. She'll never be the same.
I remember my son every day. It's sad.
While interviewing the family, we learned that every year they held a vigil on the anniversary of Brian's murder at his gravestone.
I try to keep this case active as much as we can. 13 years later, you realize nothing's been really done.
Somebody just kill him like this, it's not right. One day, truth gonna come out.
From the outside looking in, it was the kind of case that police should have been motivated to solve quickly. But that is not what happened. Instead, weeks turned into months, which eventually turned into years, and Brian's murder remained unsolved.
In November of 2020, our investigative team decided that we'd probably taken the case as far as we could to that point. That's when the digital story came out. The family was so appreciative that Brian's name was finally being talked about again, and some pressure, it seemed, would be put back on Miami-Dade police.
You may remember this case because Pata was a star football player for the University of Miami.
It's been over a decade, and the murder of Brian Pata is still unsolved.
In one of South Florida's most infamous unsolved murders, the shooting of a University of Miami lineman, and it remains unsolved to this day.
We felt like that got the ball rolling again.
It opened it up big time.
Our story was the very first time that the public had been told that Rashawn Jones, a former teammate of Brian Pata's, was the person that police were considering most likely to have killed him.
One of the theories of Brian's murder definitely revolved around his teammate, Rashawn Jones. There was pretty open conflict between the two of them.
After reading the ESPN article and then just kind of putting this piece and this piece together to kind of make it make sense, I started to believe that there was definitely a capability of this being Rashawn.
I received a voicemail from Edric, Brian's older brother.
Hey Dan, good morning. It's heating up really good. I think they're about to make an arrest soon.
9 months after our story comes out, we get word that the Miami-Dade Police Department is moving to arrest Rashawn Jones.
I believe one of the catalysts was the ESPN article that came out. I think also the state prosecutor also getting a little more aggressive in his approach towards arresting someone.
They show up at a Dollar Tree warehouse in Ocala, Florida, where he's working, and they're waiting for him when he leaves work. And he's arrested.
Being placed under arrest.
Another exclusive tonight, the wife of a former UM football player coming to his defense after he was arrested for murder.
I heard them say, Rashawn Jones, put your phone down, you're under arrest.
Rashawn Jones' wife says he knows nothing about that night and doesn't know who killed Brian Pata.
He's not this person that they're trying to portray.
She says even though Jones and Pata had a history, it was resolved before his death.
He said they wasn't even at odds when Brian got killed. He's not a murderer. He's not.
An arrest in the 15-year-old cold case, the murder of a University of Miami football player. Brian Pata was fatally shot outside his apartment back in November of 2006, and now police have arrested his former teammate, 35-year-old Rashawn Jones, and charged him with Pata's death.
I said to myself, it's about time. It's about time. My mom she got up and she started to dance and she started to praise God and say thank you.
I kept trying to say it can't be true, wait till it's all proven, but like at that moment, I'm not gonna lie, I was really upset.
Look at this moment here, Brian Pada's image, the slain Hurricane teammate, a banner that fans made, and the team gathering around it at midfield.
Initially, the photo of this moment looked to us like a team united, grieving one of their own. But now, one player sticks out, Rashawn Jones. Somehow, he's made it to the front row. He's on one knee, looking down at Brian's face on the banner. Knowing the rumors that were swirling around the team at that time, that photo started to look very different to us.
When I see that photo, I just be like, wow, you know what I'm saying? It just give you chills, man. You know what I mean? It's a little scary.
So the question now is, looking at that image, are we seeing a man who is praying for his teammate or who is praying for forgiveness?
After Rashawn Jones was arrested, we were really waiting around to see what was the tipping point. What was that missing piece of the puzzle that you said you needed to make an arrest?
Were you anywhere near the scene where Brian was killed that night?
I wasn't in the area.
What if I told you there was an eyewitness that saw you leaving the scene right after?
"35-year-old Rashawn Jones, a former defensive back for the Canes, was arrested in Lake City in Marion County earlier today with the help of U.S. Marshals.
After Brian is killed, Rashawn had gone on to marry his high school sweetheart, Ashenda. He has 5 children, and he's doing some coaching stuff. He's somewhat still involved in football, but seems to be living a pretty average life.
In August of 2021, Rashawn Jones was arrested and was subsequently interviewed and interrogated for this crime.
Have you already patted him down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've gone through everything, pockets and stuff.
And in walks Miami-Dade Police Detective Juan Segovia, who took over this investigation from Miguel Dominguez, who retired right after our lawsuit.
How many hours did you sleep last night?
The approach that the detective is using at this point really is non-accusatory. It's just an interview approach to begin with.
What can you tell me about your relationship with Brian?
I mean, we had an up and down relationship.
Okay. What happened? What does that mean, up and down?
We was teammates. I guess females got involved. So it was, I don't know, I guess jealousy over females.
I think Rashawn wants to find out how much information, what the detail is, what it is eventually that the detective has to share with him.
He doesn't seem to be concerned about admitting that, they've had some ups and downs.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet, because they haven't put it into a context for him to have concerns about that.
Rashawn had somewhat of a history of getting into altercations, and there was another player that would tell police that Rashawn actually pulled a gun on him.
Did you own a firearm back when you were at University of Miami?
No.
You never had carried? Never. No. Did you ever make it sound like you carried a firearm?
I don't know. That was a lot going on back then. I don't remember if I said no. I didn't never say I carried a firearm.
Most likely the realization is they're trying to connect me to a weapon that's connected to the homicide.
And all of a sudden, he starts stammering.
And you can see that he's thinking about that. He's trying to go back through the files in his memory.
On the morning of Brian's murder, Rashawn is called into the coach's office, and he's told that he's failed his drug tests, which is going to lead to a suspension.
It was for marijuana.
It was for marijuana, so I don't go to practice that day.
Okay.
When I leave out his office, I go home.
Miami-Dade pulled phone records for Rashawn Jones, which show that at 3 p.m. on the day of the murder, Rashawn activated a new phone number.
What was the reason for changing your number? Explain to me.
I don't know. At the time, I felt like I was gonna get a lot of backlash for my second marijuana. I mean, for my drug test.
From who?
From friends, family. I know I let my family down, mother them, grandmother them.
One thing that stood out when we finally got to look at his phone records was that there were 56 calls, but there was a gap between about 6:40 and 7:40. And police believe Brian was shot around 7 o'clock.
So when you got home, you turned off your phone?
Yeah.
What'd you do that?
I just didn't want to be from the outside world.
Okay.
I was frustrated with myself.
At the time of the shooting, police are contacted by someone who lives at the Colony apartment complex by the name of Paul Connor.
Paul Connor was a writing instructor at the University of Miami. On the night of the murder, Paul Connor was about to make a turn into the parking lot. He hears a pop. And seconds later, he walks by a young African-American male going in the opposite direction.
Police later showed Connor a photo lineup, and Connor identified Rashawn Jones as the man he saw that night.
What if I told you there was an eyewitness that saw you leaving the scene right after? You remember that old man that you crossed with in the sidewalk there?
I wasn't there. He can't eyewitness me.
You were identified as leaving the scene.
How? And I wasn't there.
He was shown 6 photographs. He was shown 6 photographs, and you were one of them, and he immediately identified you.
I can't explain it to you. I don't know.
Just really bad luck?
Really bad luck. I'm telling you, I have nothing to do with this guy murder. Nothing. Ain't no 15 years of telling myself I didn't do it, or ain't no trying to convince myself I didn't. Nothing.
His concurrence that, yeah, it's just bad luck. This is just bad luck, really bad luck for me. No, it's a lot more than bad luck. It's either fact or it's being trumped up against him.
Why would all these people lie about your
I just said I used to live, I used to be young and wild. So I guess that's just the perspective they got on me of how I was. But that ain't got nothing to do with picking up no gun, trying to kill nobody, harm nobody with. That's not in me.
Ashenda is brought into the interrogation area as well, and she comes to talk to Rashawn after they've interviewed him.
They said they got the eyewitness, and people saying that they seen me with a gun when I was in Miami. Oh, I threatened Brian when I was in Miami. People heard me threaten him.
That's all they got?
People heard me.
They ain't got no DNA. You can't maybe think my husband is a killer. I said, listen, you have to literally show me him standing over the body for me to believe that he killed this man. I love you.
You've got a star witness involved here, identifying Rashawn as the individual responsible, and it behooves the prosecution to ensure that that individual is safe and willing to participate and capable of it.
In the lead up to the trial, the prosecution had been telling the court that there had been issues with tracking down Mr. Connor. They tried his phone number, they tried his address. He was nowhere to be found. They just presumed that he was dead.
But something here just didn't seem right. I find people for a living. I just didn't believe he was dead.
Mr. Connor?
Mommy kept all of these. Mommy was so happy when she got this jersey.
Oh, yeah. My son.
She said, my son. That's him holding it. That was the first jersey. This just tells you right here how much of a jokester he was. You see?
Oh my God. I missed his boy.
Yeah. You hear stories or you watch a documentary, you see something like this, to think that one day that you'll be that same family wanting justice, wanting closure, and you're sitting there just waiting. This is him as a baby.
It's been a roller coaster ride for all of us. We prepare and we talk about it. Then all of a sudden they get pushed, you know, and then it gets pushed and it's pushed. It's been a roller coaster ride.
If the family hadn't pushed, if there was no 2017 press conference with Jeanette Pata, if there was no involvement of ESPN, would we even be at this point?
The former UM football player accused of killing a teammate charged with second-degree murder at his arraignment today. Jones has pleaded not guilty.
The first substantive thing that happens in his case is a bond hearing, which is in 2022.
Please come forward to the witness stand right up here.
One of the most interesting things about the bond hearing was that we finally got to see, for the first time, Paul Connor, the writing instructor from Miami who claimed that he saw someone matching the description of Rashawn Jones leaving the apartment complex after the shooting.
How would you describe the person that you saw, Mr. Connor?
A young African-American, 6 feet to 6'1", tall, approaching the gate.
What did you notice about the man and his facial features?
Well, he smiled at me. He had a clean set of white teeth, no gold teeth.
The bond hearing lasted a few days, and at the end of it, the judge set Rashawn's bail at $850,000. But his family couldn't come up with the portion needed for bail, so he remained in the Metro West Detention Center in Miami. Time passed, and 4 years after his arrest, Rashawn was still in jail, waiting for a trial.
I got contacted by Rashawn because another client referred him. I went to see him at the jail, and he told me a little bit about his case, about the fact that it had taken 15 years. The case did not sit right with me, and I decided that I was going to represent him.
Rashawn Jones has a fiercely passionate and dedicated defense team in his corner. Sarah Alvarez is 30 years old. This is her first murder case ever.
So when I came onto the case, the witness list that the state had filed was very incomplete. I realized that there was a lot left to do in terms of deposing these witnesses and also tracking down other witnesses who the state was saying they had never had contact with.
As it turned out, one witness was extremely difficult to track down.
In the summer of 2025, the state attorney's office comes to a hearing and says something that is pretty shocking, which is they can't locate their main eyewitness, which is Paul Connor.
They couldn't find him. They said they had run him in all the records databases, and we kept pushing and asking for evidence of this.
The prosecution had been telling the court that there had been issues with tracking down Mr. Connor. They tried his phone number, they tried his address. He was nowhere to be found. They just presumed that he was dead.
As someone who does this for a living and tracks people down, I did not believe that Paul Connor was dead, because when you die, you create a paper trail.
Paula Levine phoned one of Mr. Connor's previous co-workers. She was so concerned that she called a welfare check to be done on him.
Remember, this is a private individual just calling up the Louisville Police Department to do this.
Hey, are you Paul?
Yeah.
Paul, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Have a good one.
A few weeks later, producer Dan Aruda and I made a trip to Louisville to see for ourselves. We arrived at the address that both we and Miami-Dade had for Connor.
Hi, are you Paul Connor?
Yeah.
Have you been contacted by anyone recently from like Miami State Attorney's Office at all?
No.
Just before the murder trial for Brian Pata is about to start, a key witness is found who police thought was dead.
It wasn't the police that discovered this key witness wasn't dead. It was ESPN. I mean, that's just wild.
2020 reached out to the Miami police with specific questions about their investigation. They did not respond to our requests for comment.
All right.
So as the case finally heads to trial after all these years, all eyes are on that courtroom in Miami.
Nearly 20 years after the deadly shooting of a UM football player, it's time for trial for a teammate accused of the crime.
This case got really personal for all of us. We were ready to take the gloves off and throw down.
Everyone out. Everyone out. Yes, everyone out, including out. Jones. Unbelievable.
So this is courtroom 4-1. It's really only used for the big trials. It's the same courtroom where Ted Bundy was tried. And they knew that the media would be interested in this case.
The first day where testimony is scheduled to begin, here comes the Pata family in force into the courtroom. His brothers and sisters and his mom, Jeanette, who is in a wheelchair.
We've been preparing for the unknown because this is the hardest thing. We've never gone through this before.
And to see them all come in and fill up, 2 full rows in the gallery, it was powerful. They sat down, and I think they bore witness. I mean, that's the best way to put this, to what they hope is justice.
The inescapable feeling here is justice delayed is justice denied.
State of Florida versus Rashawn Jones.
State prosecutors say over the 15 or so years of this case, all evidence really pointed to the defendant.
We are asking that you just pay close attention to each and every witness who testifies, because each person will provide a piece of evidence that in the end points only to one person. The man sitting at that table over there, Rashawn Jones.
So for the prosecution, this case basically comes down to the relationship between Brian, Jada, and Rashawn.
All roads did not lead to Rashawn Jones. Just because the government tells you that something is true does not make it so.
Rashawn looked, as he's sitting at the table, very professional. He didn't really glance over at the family. He really kept his focus on his counsel.
For 15 years, the police interview Rashawn along with other teammates and other students, but they never really treat him like a suspect. They don't bring him in for a sworn statement for 15 years after he's already been arrested for this horrible crime.
Would you like to call your first witness?
In an extremely emotional moment in the courtroom, you have Dwayne Hendricks, Brian's teammate, former roommate, testifying about the moment when he saw his friend lying motionless in front of their apartment.
I noticed Brian on the ground, so I hopped out of the car and I was like, yo, stop playing. He had a puddle of blood behind his head. That's when it hit me. He wasn't playing and it wasn't a game anymore.
Did you call anyone from his family?
I tell people to this day, that was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life. It was to call that. To call his mom and say that her youngest is dead.
When the prosecutor first started showing some of the photos from the crime scene and some of the photos of Brian's body, it was a really emotional moment for the family. I mean, they were leaning forward, they were grabbing tissues, some of them turned their heads away. It clearly had an effect on them.
Good afternoon, Mr. Howell.
Dave Howell, Brian's teammate, testified about the hostility that he saw between Brian and Rashawn over Jada.
Did Brian and Rashawn get in any other disputes?
Yes.
Were they over Jada?
Yes.
Did you see any of those disputes?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us what you saw?
It was in front of the cafeteria. It was just words between the two of them, and they moved on. It was nothing physical.
And former teammate Eric Moncour testified about the day that they came up to his dorm room.
Brian ended up pushing him, and he pushed him, and I think he punched him, and then he got on top of him and started headbutting him. And then I ended up grabbing Brian, pulling him off, and Rashawn got up and he walked out the room. He was like, boy, you might as well go ahead and clip up.
During cross-examination, the defense attempted to downplay the statement, clip up.
You didn't actually believe that Mr. Jones was going to shoot anybody, correct?
No.
You didn't take this as a serious threat?
No.
After this fight that happened in your dorm room in the summer of 2004, you thought that it was over at that point, correct? There was no further beef?
Yes.
And you never heard anybody bring this fight up again, right?
Not to my knowledge.
But the key testimony came from that alleged eyewitness, Paul Connor.
I'm gonna keep this very brief. I really just have one question for you. What did Rashawn's teeth look like in November of 2006?
So if you think about it, this entire case could possibly come down to the description of someone's smile.
He witnessed taking the stand today in the murder trial of Rashawn Jones, a former UM professor, detailing what he heard and saw the night Brian Patta was shot and killed.
The state plays for the jury a recorded testimony of Paul Connor from a hearing in 2022.
Do you swear or affirm that testimony?
It was treated as regular testimony.
He smiled at me. He had a clean set of white teeth, no gold teeth. And that's about it. I described him to the forensic artist.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of the sketch that was created based upon your representation?
Yes.
The million-dollar question in this is, did the jury believe Paul Connor?
But another witness, Bruce Johnson, who was a teammate of both Rashawn and Brian, is called to testify. The defense takes this as an opportunity to question him about Rashawn's teeth.
I really just have one question for you. What did Rashawn's teeth look like in November of 2006?
They just wasn't, everything wasn't straight. It was jagged, kind of messed up.
Would you describe them as a clean set of white teeth?
No.
Now, these two statements are completely at odds with each other.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury and tell them where you're employed?
Yes, my name is Juan Segovia. I'm a homicide investigator with the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office.
One of the final witnesses that the state called was Detective Juan Segovia, and he had been assigned in 2020 to take over the case, and his testimony was incredibly useful for the prosecution because it took all these little pieces of testimony from all these other people and essentially tied it together in a very effective narrative as to the motive, the means, the opportunity for Rashawn Jones to kill Brian Patta.
What information did you gather that led to you getting an arrest warrant?
It was the threats accompanied with the display or talk of the same type of firearm that killed the victim. It was the phone records. It was the identification of Mr. Connor and all the circumstantial stuff that happened the night of.
The jury also got to hear the post-arrest interrogation interview of Rashawn Jones.
Let's talk about Jada a little bit, because Jada's name comes up a lot during the investigation. Is that the first time that you have any beef with Brian whatsoever?
Yeah.
That you remember? That was over Jada?
Yeah.
Okay. You dated Jada?
Never dated Jada.
Did you guys have any relations?
We had a relation once.
On cross-examination, the defense pressed Segovia on whether or not Rashawn ever owned a gun.
You have no personal knowledge whatsoever that Mr. Jones actually owned a firearm at any point, do you?
Not legally.
Not legally?
Right.
You have never seen Mr. Jones with a firearm?
I've never seen him.
The prosecution ends its case on the very graphic testimony of the medical examiner.
I do.
Who uses a model to describe the fatal injury that takes Brian's life.
The pathway of the bullet through Mr. Patta's body was from his left side, several inches above his left ear.
That was hard for the family. It was an incredibly emotional way to end those 5 days of testimony.
At this time, the state rests.
We had so many other leads, all of which were more viable than Rashawn. Ultimately, the court ruled that these different viable theories be excluded.
At this time, the defense rests.
Even without that, we felt so good about the case because they still didn't have anything, and we trusted that a jury would feel similarly.
I had to ask somebody next to me, did I hear what I thought I heard?
Mr. Jones, your attorneys have indicated after speaking to you that you do not wish to testify. They're not going to call any witnesses on your behalf. Have you had an opportunity to discuss that with them?
Yes.
Are you deciding not to testify in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
We were stunned. I think anybody there who was witnessing this was wondering what had happened.
Both the state and the defendant have now rested their case. The attorneys will now present their final arguments.
You'd remember one of the worst days of your life. You test positive, your future's unsure, you don't have the girl, you're gonna get kicked off the team. Things are not going your way. And then it all just boils over.
Does this look anything like Rashawn Jones? Does this look anything like Rashawn Jones? Nothing. Paul Connor's selection is not reliable. It is not credible. Rashawn Jones was not at the Colony Apartments. Rashawn Jones did not shoot him. Rashawn Jones had nothing to do with his death. Rashawn Jones failed a drug test. He was at home at the time that Brian Patta was killed.
All eyes for the jury.
This family has been put through so much for so long, and they get so close to what they believe is finally going to be justice for them. I can't even imagine what they're going through.
We are now on verdict watch as the jury evaluates the evidence in the murder of his teammate Brian Patta.
The only thing that is not a foregone conclusion here is what that jury is going to decide.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've received your note. I've received your note indicating that you continue to be deadlocked, and so at this time I will declare a mistrial and a hung jury. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case.
The breakdown was 5 for not guilty and 1 for guilty, and the person who was leaning to guilty was just unmoved.
This has to be extremely difficult for the family, and in particular, Jeanette, Brian's mother. She has called for justice for her son, her youngest child.
Anybody who's seen the video of Jeanette running down the street, wearing Brian's jersey, yelling,
"Give me my baby! Give me my baby! Give me my baby!"
and then to juxtapose that with her being wheeled into an elevator because she's so frail that she can't walk on her own, kept saying 20 years, 20 years.
We come here! We come here! We only one.
And she still has that same desperate plea in her voice.
We're frustrated, but we're also resilient. We're going to remain steadfast and confident that we're going to get the answers that we need.
What do you think you would do differently?
That's a hard question to answer. I'll leave that for the next one.
There are no winners here. At the end of the day, we're still at the same place. We don't know who killed Brian. We don't know the truth, and I don't think we'll ever know the truth.
The damage is done. The lives of multiple individuals have been completely ruined.
His fate was really demoralizing and discouraging, not just for the Miami Hurricanes football program that fell into a precipitous decline after that. It was devastating for this city, and particularly for the community that Brian came from, which is always looking towards our athletes as role models, as symbols of hope and opportunity.
He did have such a love for the community that he was raised in, and he understood the importance of him making it.
And when you have a young person who's from this area and is able to advance not only the identity of Little Haiti, but become somewhat of an ambassador of the culture, and his life is taken way before its time, it's heartbreaking. Brian Potter's life and the tragedy of his experience is like a candle from the dark. And when that light is lost, it hurts us all.
What's going on? Hello?
You know, I'll look at a picture or something, I get emotional, but then I'll think back how we used to spend our times together and, you know, the jokes he would crack and, you know, the times we would spend and just those memories, the positive, you know, all the good stuff, you know, that, but you think of, oh man, he's not here anymore, you know, that's when the tears flow. A gentle giant.
Loving individual. Full of life, full of energy, positive energy. Someone who's truly missed. It's still hard for us today.
A little bit after his death, I mean, I dreamt about Brian. He was talking to people, he was saying he's okay, I'm okay. I wasn't supposed to die, but I gotta go over on the other side. You guys won't see me anymore. God is letting me in the door now. Those were his words. Then a big purple door opened, and it's bright light, and he walks in between. He looks, and he waves. So I love everybody, I love everybody. Then he hugs me. It felt so real. And the door shuts behind him. And then that was it.
You know, it's a dream that keeps Brian connected to his loved ones. His family's journey for justice will continue as the state is expected to retry Rashawn Jones.
So more to come, David. For additional information on this story, you can listen to the 30 for 30 podcast, Murder at the U, which chronicles ESPN's 8-year investigation into the case. That's our program for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir from all of us here at 2020 and ABC News. Good night.
Tonight, I go back home to Georgia to look into the death of a young wife.
That Atlanta wife murdered as she opened her very own front door. An all-new 2020 starts right now.
This is a true murder mystery. Emphasis on murder, emphasis on mystery.
I felt like Lita's murder case looks like a true crime story, but it goes a lot deeper.
Who would kill this woman? She wasn't robbed. Somebody came to the door with roses and shot her dead.
Was there a feeling that this had to be pretty calculated?
She was shot with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
No obvious suspect.
Was she at all concerned about the fact that she was in an interracial marriage and that this was a difficult time in the South?
It was not a welcoming place for a black woman to live.
She said, I'm done. I'm packing up my stuff.
I want you to see the puzzle. When I put it together and I show it to you, you'll never forget it.
Your wife's best friend has been murdered, and police are looking at you. It's a chilly, drizzly winter Atlanta morning, and 35-year-old Lita McClinton is suddenly awakened.
It's around 8:15 in the morning, and she heard the doorbell ring. And she tightens up her rope and goes downstairs to open the door.
And I think she was probably not going to open it, but she looked through the keyhole and saw that the person had a box of flowers.
There was a man standing at the door holding a long white box of long stem roses that had a big, thick pink ribbon around it.
So she receives the flowers, thinking that this is a delivery.
She was really excited. She thought that it was a gift from one of her friends.
In a sea of red brick townhouses, Lita's white one stands out. Her best friend Poppy and 3-year-old daughter have spent the night, and they are still in bed upstairs, just waking up.
Poppy hears her say, "Good morning," to the man at the door.
The flower delivery man produces a handgun. He fires a shot.
She actually put the box of roses in front of her face. The second shot went right through the center of her head, and she fell with a large thud.
Lita's friend Poppy was upstairs with her toddler, and right away she grabbed her daughter and hid her into a closet and said, "You gotta be quiet, quiet as a mouse." She didn't know if the gunman was gonna come for her. Lita's neighbor hears the shots, then sees the guy running like a bat out of hell, just booking it out of the complex, and he calls 911.
The first police officer is only a few blocks away, and he gets the call, and so that police officer ends up holding Lita's hand. They thought Lita was completely unconscious, and yet she managed to squeeze his hand as he kept comforting her and telling her everything was going to be okay. And he said it was her comforting him. Poppy got out of the closet and called Lita's mother, and she couldn't get words out, and she finally just said, "Lita's been shot." Lita's mother called her husband. When they went to the hospital, they were put in a separate little waiting room. The doctor tended to Lita, and he came out about 30 minutes later and said, "I'm sorry."
Never get easier because she's gone. We should have gone first, not her.
Atlanta's exclusive Buckhead neighborhood is known for its sprawling mansions, not murder. So when the shooting happened right here, neighbors were shocked and on edge.
Sullivan was found in the doorway of her townhouse, shot twice in the head.
It's pretty surprising that in this area, those kinds of things probably wouldn't happen.
How did you learn that Lita had been killed?
I ran to the TV because I heard Sullivan on Slayton Drive.
Police say a box of roses was found near her body. The gunman apparently posed as a delivery man.
And I said, "Oh my God, that's Lita."
Detectives on the scene found a bullet fragment, 2 shell casings, and the box of roses.
2 gunshots from a 9mm penetrated the box. The weapon was never found. To this day, it's never been found.
In this case, you had just a minor amount of evidence.
At the time, it was the top story on the news, and law enforcement officers felt a great deal of pressure in order to bring Lita's killer to justice.
For years, Lita's case was cold, buried underneath the weight of unanswered questions and fading memories.
I'm Deb Miller Landau, and I just wrote a book called A Devil Went Down to Georgia about the murder of Lita McClinton Sullivan. I covered this story for Atlanta Magazine back in 2004. And the more people I talked to, the more that I researched, the more I felt like I began to know Lita. So talking about the day that she died feels personal.
The case was also personal to Clint Rucker, the prosecutor. When I came to Atlanta to meet up with him, I learned that one of his passions is puzzles. Working from the outside in, which also translates to solving homicides.
Where do you begin? How do you start to connect?
When I'm putting together a puzzle, not only in real life, but also a murder case, I make an assessment about what it is I'm working with. I start to identify pieces of the puzzle that are foundational.
Lita's murder case looks like a true crime story, but it goes a lot deeper. It's a story about love and loss and greed.
Lita had been reared in Atlanta's Black elite.
You know, on the surface, she was living an Atlanta dream.
A prosperous upbringing.
A very prosperous upbringing. The expectations for her life were pretty high.
Black women have had to be exceptional in order to be seen. And that was the case then, and I think it's still the case now.
One thing seems certain, a murder of this kind is personal.
Was there a feeling that this had to be pretty calculated?
Police knew almost immediately Lita Sullivan was the intended victim.
Who would kill this woman? She wasn't robbed. Somebody came to the door with roses and shot her dead.
Atlanta had its fair share of crime, but this was most certainly one of the highest profile cases that got reported in the news.
Sullivan was shot twice in the head. A box of roses found next to her body.
Using a flower delivery man and shooting her, it was something that just kind of stuck out to me.
Atlanta, Georgia, billed as a vibrant melting pot, a destination for creatives. But if you grew up in Georgia in the 1970s, as I did, you know this was a very different place then. One still emerging from the dark shadows of segregation and racial tensions.
What was 1970s Atlanta like when she was sort of coming along?
We've got African Americans that are kind of ascending into really prominent positions. Lita also is ascending because her parents are part of this movement.
Lita's parents, Emory and Joanne McClinton, were both power players, movers and shakers in Atlanta.
Emory McClinton was on the State Board of Transportation. Joanne McClinton was a member of the Georgia legislature.
Joanne will tell you stories about being in really interpersonal meetings with Dr. King.
She was the Maynard Jackson's campaign manager when he ran for mayor.
I think the McClintons had high expectations for who Lita would become. Lita Sullivan was a true daughter of Atlanta.
She was just a gem, very, very proper.
And she had grown up in a world of cotillions, so she really was sort of that classic upper crust black person growing up in Atlanta.
She knew where she was going.
She had a great sense of style.
And absolutely charming.
After high school, she went on to Spelman College. Her parents sort of hoped that she would enter the political arena like they were, but she was very much into fashion. She was working at a boutique at Lenox Square, and in walks this guy who had unruly curls and weird glasses and just immediately saw Lita and was taken with her.
Fresh out of college, 24-year-old Lita is smitten with James, Jim Sullivan. He's a bit older, 35, and he's also white.
He showered her with gifts. He just completely showered her with attention.
He comes in, he dazzles her. What did you learn about him?
I learned that what he saw was a fantasy. in Lita. I think he looked at her as a young, very attractive, very smart African-American female.
Another big difference between them is class. Lita has been raised in Atlanta's high society and Jim on Boston's gritty South Side.
He grew up in a very middle to lower middle class environment.
He went to Holy Cross College, got a bachelor's degree in economics.
He always wanted more for himself. He always wanted to be a rich person, but it didn't seem like that was in the cards. He was an accountant. He was working hard, but he really wasn't getting ahead.
But life is about to change for Jim Sullivan when he inherits a thriving liquor distributorship from his uncle, worth millions of dollars.
Crown Beverages was worth around $3.2 million. Jim had become a wealthy man. So when the McClintons met Jim for the first time, they were like, who is this guy? He had this kind of manner that was very uncouth and brash, and they were sort of mystified about what their daughter saw in him. I mean, I think the only thing they had in common was that he was Catholic and they were Catholic as well. But everything else was complete polar opposites.
Another concern, of course, was race. Remember, this is the 70s. Even though the country is watching color barriers slipping away on the hit show The Jeffersons, with Primetime's first interracial couple.
Your parents have never gotten over the fact that I'm white.
That's because you never got over being white.
At that time, this was unusual.
Georgia's anti-miscegenation laws that forbade blacks and whites to marry had only been repealed 10 years earlier.
Still, despite their obvious differences, Jim Sullivan pops the question to Lita.
So the McClintons were like, you cannot marry this man.
They felt like Lita was really making a mistake and was kind of caught up in the exuberance of this relationship.
Despite her parents' strong objections, Lita and Jim are engaged. But on the eve of her wedding, Jim drops a bomb.
He tells Lita that he has been married before and that he has 4 children. Lita was shocked.
And then, the very same night, Jim Sullivan blindsides his bride-to-be again.
He whips out a piece of paper and he says, can you sign this? And then she looks down and sees that he's drawn up a prenuptial agreement. And she's like, what is this?
Apparently determined to protect his newfound wealth, Sullivan surprises Lita with a prenup, which says that in the event of a divorce, she would walk away with virtually nothing. She's reluctant, but the cake is ordered, the flowers are ready, so Lita signs the agreement and ties the knot anyway.
Lita got married in 1976. It was a small ceremony in Macon, Georgia. Joanne McClinton would later describe that as the worst day of her life.
The newlyweds settle some 80 miles south of Atlanta near Jim's business in Macon. It's a world away from Atlanta. But Lita agrees to give up her current job and her income and become full-time Mrs. Jim Sullivan.
They bought a house in Shirley Hills, a very affluent, very white part of Macon. Joanne and Emery McClinton feared for their daughter. Being part of an interracial couple in Macon, Georgia in the 1970s would have been extraordinarily challenging. The neighbors were like, you have the gall to bring a black wife to Shirley Hills. People threw garbage on their doorstep.
The out-and-out racism had to be tough for Lita. But she moves forward and makes some new connections and friends, including Yvette Miller.
When Lita and Yvette occasionally go out to eat, she notices something a bit curious.
We'd go out to lunch at a nice restaurant, and she couldn't pay the bill. And I would end up picking up the check.
And they were a wealthy couple.
They were very wealthy.
Then one Christmas season, a card arrives in the mail addressed to Jim. Lita opens it, and what she discovers will make her question everything. Lita and Jim Sullivan's first few months of marriage seemed to be going well.
They were both intelligent, both attractive, definitely upper class, high society.
But just beneath the surface, there's some obvious cracks.
They seemed to be loving at first.
At first?
He was not that nice to her, and he was not that kind to her.
Was he brusque? Was he brash?
He was a bit arrogant. Even though he had all of these resources, he did not, in my opinion, take care of his wife.
Friends say that the once generous millionaire has suddenly become a miser.
He was notoriously cheap.
He would wear his dead uncle's clothes around the house. He would use the sheath from the dry cleaning as saran wrap in the kitchen. He didn't want Lita to work, but he kept her on a very tight allowance where he gave her $150 a week.
Did she express any discontentment with her marriage?
When we were at those restaurants, Jim just does not give me enough money to take care of me and the house. You know, she clearly was not happy.
Was there talk of infidelity?
Lita had several instances where she questioned whether or not her husband was actually having an affair.
One day she finds a long blonde hair in their master bathroom, and she asks Jim about it, and he says, "I don't know what you're talking about." They got into this cycle of, she accused him of philandering. He would deny it, and then he would buy her sort of an expensive jewelry apology.
Then, during the holidays one year, Lita makes another stunning discovery.
A Christmas card came addressed to Jim. She opened it. A woman wrote in something like, missing your kisses. The woman's return address was on the envelope, so Lita went and spoke to her, and the woman said that she had been having an affair with Jim.
Lita is distraught and goes home to be with her parents in Atlanta. But her husband manages to lure her back, increasing her weekly allowance in a now post-nuptial agreement.
Now it's $300 instead of $150 a week, but it still shows that all of their assets belong to Jim.
That's right, the successful business, Lita's Mercedes, multiple properties, even her jewelry, still belong to her husband in the event of a divorce.
But in an attempt at reconciliation, Lita signs the postnup.
Just a few months after Lita signs that agreement, without Lita knowing, Sullivan decides to sell Crown Beverages for $5 million.
And that's not all. He tells her they're moving to Palm Beach, Florida.
Lita was in shock.
She had any clue that he was going to whistle her down to Palm Beach.
But Lita's new Florida home, located a stone's throw from what would become Mar-a-Lago, is more elaborate than she ever would have imagined. Called Casa Alita, it's a 17,000 square foot mansion with 8 oceanfront bedrooms.
It was just unbelievable.
When you went to Jim's home, you go through this tunnel and you would be at the beach. It's your own private beach.
But for Lita, everything that glitters isn't exactly gold.
James Sullivan very much wanted to integrate himself into the upper echelons of society, and his aspirations did not include Lita's participation.
It was not a welcoming place for a black woman to live. And when he found out that to sort of scale the level of social plateau he was looking at in Palm Beach, having a black wife was a serious impediment to that.
She was left out of some affairs, and she really became upset.
So even though they had money, this is a moneyed crowd, didn't really matter though.
He was barely rich compared to Palm Beach.
Did he want to be in that crowd?
Oh, yes. He wanted to, be accepted as one of the rich and famous.
It doesn't take long before Jim starts to flirt with other women.
And it's at a cocktail party that one particularly elegant Palm Beach woman catches Sullivan's eye.
Jim sees Suki Rogers, who is a Korean-born socialite.
She was telegenic. She had a spicy personality. I think a man like Jim Sullivan could not help but be intrigued by this beautiful woman.
They started dating. He's still married to Lita.
By now, the Sullivans have been married nearly 10 years, but things are about to explode.
Lita finds women's lingerie in their master bed. It's the bra that broke the camel's back.
She said, I'm done. I'm packing up my stuff, and I'm going back home.
Lita arrives back in Atlanta. The very next day, she files for divorce from Jim.
But Sullivan fights Lita every step of the way, and the divorce drags on.
Did she seem concerned, worried, nervous about her breakup?
What I detected was she was excited, and she was cutting the cord and leaving Jim alone. She wanted her life back.
While Lita is looking forward to a new life of freedom, she can't be happy about the prospect of leaving her marriage with virtually nothing. No career, no Palm Beach mansion, no Buckhead townhouse, and $2,500 a month in alimony for 3 years. So Lita is going to divorce court, determined to fight for what she believes she deserves.
All she wanted was a reasonable financial settlement so that she could kind of go on with her life.
January 16th, 1987 was set up to be a pivotal day in the lives of Lita and Jim Sullivan.
A judge was going to decide whether or not to throw out the post-nuptial agreement.
She might get as much as close to $1 million in cash and assets.
The morning of January 16th, Lita Sullivan, she'd lose her life that day in a murder.
With Lita out of the picture, Jim Sullivan stands to gain the property that they had and retain control over all his money.
Sullivan was the main suspect.
That is, until a treasure trove of secret recordings of Lita's private conversations are uncovered, taking this investigation in a whole new direction.
And police are looking at you.
You know, you make a big circle and you put everybody in it that's close to Lita. Everybody's a suspect. But the first one would be the husband.
The first and obvious suspect was James Sullivan, who stood to gain everything from her death, all the property, all the monies, and who was contesting the divorce.
Detectives went down to speak to him in Palm Beach, and they put him through a polygraph.
Jim Sullivan not only passes the polygraph, but there's something else. He has an alibi that puts him nearly 700 miles away from the crime scene.
James Sullivan was actually in Palm Beach at the time of Lita's murder.
When you first look at it, it looks pretty cut and dry. When you interview all the people involved, everybody points in one direction, towards the husband. But when you sit down and look at the facts, I'm not so sure that the husband is the person that committed the crime.
Nothing surfaced in the early stages of the investigation that implicated Jim Sullivan in the murder.
Sullivan is cooperating with authorities, and during his interview with detectives, he mentions the name of his friend, Marvin Marable.
At the time of Lita's death, Marvin and James Sullivan had a very close relationship.
Remember, Marvin Marable is married to Lita's best friend, Poppy, who was in the Buckhead townhouse with her 3-year-old daughter the morning that Lita was murdered. But back before the shooting, the friendship hadn't always sat well with Marvin.
When Lita moved back to Atlanta, they started, hanging out together.
So she's disillusioned by her relationship. Did her failed relationship have any impact on your relationship?
Well, from the standpoint of them,
being together all the time and going out, yeah.
Commiserating.
Oh, absolutely. Certainly didn't help. And I can understand her being there for her friend, but, sometimes you can go overboard, which is what happened in our relationship.
Marable, a former New York State trooper turned entrepreneur, says Lita would often spend hours at his home with Poppy. And it was during this time, he says, coincidentally or not, that his own marriage began to unravel.
I found a letter where Poppy was planning to file for divorce.
So she was planning to file for divorce without your knowledge?
Oh, yeah.
That had to be a shocker.
It was.
So then you decided to try something a little questionable after that.
I have a background in law enforcement. I don't see it as questionable. It's your own telephone in your own house. I put a recorder on the, people call it a tap, on the phone, and I started recording conversations.
In the house phone?
Mm-hmm. On the house phone.
He began listening to Poppy and Lita's conversations and ended up recording more than 300 hours.
And during those very personal conversations between girlfriends, Marvin Marable learns that there may be some information that James Sullivan might be interested in learning that will be helpful for him in his divorce case.
He tells Sullivan about the tapes and what's on them, specifically Lita's post-divorce plans.
And soon enough, the two disgruntled husbands are conspiring to get the best of their soon-to-be ex-wives in divorce court.
Marvin Marable travels down to Palm Beach under a false name, and the two men listen to the tapes, and Marvin says, "I'm not going to record anymore," and Jim says, no, keep recording.
Was there talk of money?
Yeah, he offered $30,000.
Jim says to Marvin, if the judge decides to honor the postnuptial agreement, he's going to give Marvin $30,000 for the use of the information on the tapes.
What kinds of things did Lita talk about that could be helpful to either one of you?
There were some guys that, she would talk to, but she was legally separated.
But then, just a few days after Marvin and Jim's secret meeting at Casa Elita,
Poppy and Lita somehow discovered the recording device.
How did they react?
It wasn't nice. She filed for divorce the next day.
She was angry.
She was very angry.
Lita was upset too, so upset that she reported Marvin to the authorities, and he was charged with possession of an eavesdropping device. So when police questioned Sullivan about who might have a motive to murder his wife, he tells them to look no further than Marvin Marable.
And sure enough, only a few days after Lita's death, Marvin is being questioned by the Atlanta Police Department about Lita's murder.
I go down for the interview, and the first thing they did is read me my rights. And from there on, it was just a nightmare. I was a prime suspect.
You have a law enforcement background, so you knew what police were.
I knew that I was being followed. I could pick the investigators, police, could pick them out all the time. Jim had mentioned my name to them. He said, look at Marvin Marable.
This was serious stuff.
Oh, yeah.
How worried were you?
I was very worried.
Joanne and Emery McClinton were beyond devastated. Their eldest daughter was dead. Just 3 days after Lita's murder, they held a funeral.
Days dissolve into months, and authorities are no closer to finding Lita Sullivan's murderer.
The case is just sort of growing colder and colder by the minute.
And while Marvin Marable might have been angry at Lita for pressing those charges against him for eavesdropping, there was no evidence he was responsible for her death.
I know that people get wrongly accused, wrongly convicted, and so the only saving grace is the fact that I knew I was innocent.
By process of elimination is you can determine the pieces that don't fit.
and just eliminate them.
The way in which we eliminated Marvin Marable as a suspect, there was just not enough to connect him directly to the crime itself.
As for that eavesdropping device charge, Marvin was put on probation, which he completed, and then he was exonerated. But on those recordings Maribel made, Lida had talked about other men, something that her soon-to-be ex-husband Sullivan pointed out to police.
He made allegations that she was participating in extramarital affairs, and that perhaps this was the action of, you know, a disgruntled boyfriend.
We have a lot of major players. At this point in the investigation, we have a lot of suspects.
One of the first men police question is a professional athlete.
Lida and him had been friends when she was in Palm Beach. The police quickly found out that he was in prison for drug possession.
That athlete is behind bars when Lida is killed, so clearly he can't be the trigger man. Then investigators turn their sights to a prominent Atlanta businessman.
And he and Lida had been childhood friends, and they sort of rekindled their friendship. And they realized that he had no motive, and they found nothing that connected him.
Authorities also take a hard look at another suitor who had taken Lida to dinner the night before her death, and get this, had also given her 2 roses.
The suspect was a man named Bob Daniel, and Bob had had an incident a couple months before the murder where, in a drunken rage, he came to Lida's house, smashed his car into the garage, and as the cops were taking him away, he said, "I'm gonna kill that." So, serious red flag.
But that lead didn't go anywhere either.
Bob had just had quadruple bypass surgery. You know, the police ultimately decided that Bob had nothing to do with it.
It's the unknowing that makes it so difficult. And to know that there are individuals who may be walking around now planning and plotting to do the same thing to somebody else is abhorrent to me.
I remember having the impression it was like a festering wound for them.
The McClintons want to draw attention to a $25,000 reward in the case.
The cause of finding justice for Lida became their obsession, became their passion.
The reward is for the arrest and conviction of those individuals responsible for our daughter's murder.
To catch Lida's killer, the Atlanta Police Department assigns 2 veteran detectives to the case.
If Lieutenant Walker bears a resemblance to actor Billy D. Williams, Welcome Harris reminds one of Columbo, the dogged, disheveled detective of television fame.
Building a murder case was like making a mosaic. You know, you get a shiny piece of glass here, a gem there. You put it together and you hope that from it emerges the shimmering image of a killer.
This particular case deals with what I consider to be high society. It contains a little bit of everything. Intrigue, mystery.
These days, a lot of murders are solved using DNA technology, ring camera technology. But back then, it was detective work.
She was shot with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Most important thing found at the crime scene was the roses.
They canvassed all the area flower shops and quickly found that the roses had been purchased at the Botany Bay flower shop.
They interviewed the worker in there, and he told them that this guy came in about 8 o'clock and bought these roses and paid in cash and then left. And he was in a small car.
The florist gave a description of the man buying the flowers and another man who was waiting in the car.
So detectives know they're looking for at least 2 men.
Until yet another person is described to police, that flower delivery man who had looked Lida's neighbor right in the eye.
There was a next-door neighbor of Lida's, lived over on the right side of her condo. He lived there. His name was Bob Christensen.
He actually gave a description of the flower delivery man as a Caucasian, middle-aged man.
They went down to the police station and worked with a police artist and got sketches. As the sketches were being completed, the officers were realizing, obviously, that the shooter was not Jim Sullivan, and that the other individuals were all three distinct individuals. They didn't look anything like each other, so therefore we knew three people were involved.
For investigators, this has all the earmarks of only one thing: murder for hire.
All the evidence pointed to a hitman showing up at the front door, posing as a flower delivery man, and firing a gunshot into Lita's head.
With investigators now exploring the possibility that Lita was murdered by a hired gunman, another critical piece of evidence comes to light: a mysterious phone call.
And what they found was that on the same day that Lita was murdered, about an hour after the actual shooting, there was a collect phone call that was placed from a payphone right outside of Atlanta, Georgia.
Was this a call from the killer?
I don't know about you. I haven't had a collect call from a payphone. So as a cop, you probably go, I wonder if that's connected.
And a tip from a woman 700 miles away may just be the big break investigators have been waiting for.
I said, anyone knows that if you wanted to get a woman to answer the door, all you would have to do is take flowers to the door.
This was a huge puzzle of a case.
A hitman showing up at the front door, posing as a flower delivery man, firing a gunshot into Lita's head.
How did your puzzle-solving skills come into play?
You figure out what fits and what doesn't fit.
I want everyone listening to this to know that I am absolutely innocent.
The loss of a daughter.
They still don't have a murder weapon.
But they do have witnesses.
Do you know anybody that possibly take care of my problem for me? Because I need some help here.
Anyone knows that if you wanted to get a woman to answer the door, all you would have to do is take flowers to the door.
She suggested the flowers.
She suggested the flowers.
You actually brought in a doorbell. Why?
To have that sense of what Lita Sullivan experienced right before her murder. She's about to meet her maker.
It's a deadly delivery of a dozen pink roses. 35-year-old Lita McClinton Sullivan opens her front door and is suddenly gunned down.
On the year anniversary of Lita's death, there are no named suspects. They still don't have a murder weapon. They don't have a hitman. They don't have a paper trail that ties Jim or anyone else to a hit.
But that's about to change when they get Jim Sullivan's phone records.
On the same day that Lita was murdered, about an hour or so after the actual shooting, there was a collect phone call to James Sullivan's home in Palm Beach, Florida.
It turns out to be from a rest stop in Suwanee, Georgia, maybe 30 or 40 miles from Buckhead. Using a phone call to call another state, that opens up federal jurisdiction. In this case, that's the FBI.
We believed the phone call from Suwanee rest stop to his home in Palm Beach, Florida, was sufficient indication that a contract hitter may have called him after doing the job.
Enter Special Agent John Kingston, who takes a particular interest in that phone call and a whole slew of other calls Jim Sullivan made and received around the time of Lita's murder.
I got a whole year's worth, 6 months before the murder to 6 months after the murder.
Kingston notices a few calls, and one of them was to Bob Christensen, Lita's neighbor. When Kingston talks to Bob, he finds out that Jim had called Bob 3 days before the murder.
Sullivan said, had he seen anything suspicious around Lita's townhouse?
And Bob finds it strange. He hasn't talked to Jim in over a year.
Bob Christensen shares something else with Agent Kingston. On the same day Jim Sullivan called him, 3 days before the fatal flower delivery, Lita heard a loud knock on her door at 5 or 6 in the morning. It was so early and so unnerving, she didn't answer it.
So that made the call that he got from Jim even more suspicious.
Kingston also finds that a call is made between Jim's house and a Howard Johnson's motel in Atlanta, just a couple of miles from Lita's house. This is really strange. One thing that he's learned about Jim is that he's not a Hojo's kind of guy. So he goes to the Howard Johnsons and asks if he can look through the records.
They gave me the shoebox with all the registration cards, and I pick out 3 that I thought, well, these are awfully interesting. So I say, do you guys have the phone records? They said, yeah, sure we do. And I'm thinking, boy, these people keep really good records, and they keep them for a long time, and I'm really glad. They bring me the phone records for January 13th. I'm flipping through them, and all of a sudden I see 305 Palm Beach, South Florida area code. And I'm pretty sure it's Jim's number. And so I check my records real quick, and I go, yep, that's his number. And then I look, and I said, oh, look, it's from 518. That's one of the 3 cards I pulled out. Well, it just so happens I have a copy of it here. And one of the things it imparts is 3 individuals checked into the room. The individual who actually registered used the name Johnny Furr, but 3 individuals is important to me because I think 3 people involved in the crime. They put their car down as a Toyota 85 with a North Carolina plate. We believe that a Toyota was the getaway car for the murder. So there's 2 coincidences already.
But remember, these motel records are from January 13th. Lita was murdered 3 days later on the 16th. Special Agent Kingston is beginning to surmise that the killers may have tried and failed to get to her once before.
What I believe it to be is the killers having come down 3 days before the actual murder was committed, knocking on her door, her not answering it, and them having to stop and regroup and figure out what plan B is going to be. So I am in love with this registration card and becomes the focal point of my life for the next several months.
Kingston's next move is to locate this so-called Johnny Furr with the North Carolina license plate.
And to my surprise, there are 150 John or Johnny Furrs in North Carolina. But to my great surprise, 115 of these 150 are in a very small circle in North Carolina, between the 3 cities of Albemarle, Concord, and Kannapolis.
They're going to knock on every door and find this Johnny Furr. Of course, they're coming from Georgia, and anytime the FBI goes and investigates in another state, they need that state's approval. And just as they're about to get to the state border, their boss calls them and says, North Carolina's denying you entry, and they'll take it from here.
And that pretty much kills my case. that kills my case.
Yeah, soon after that, Agent Kingston is transferred to another job, and that whole investigation just sort of fades away. Meantime, in Palm Beach, Jim and Suki are living the high life. So with Lita out of the picture, Jim is free to marry Suki, which he does 8 months after Lita's murder.
He's thinking that he's the cat's meow. Eating in restaurants in Palm Beach, going to parties, got another attractive woman on his arm.
Jim drives around town in a Rolls Royce and gets into a fender bender and has to go to traffic court. Jim says to the judge, well, you've misunderstood. I wasn't even driving that day. Suki was driving. So the judge says, we're going to throw it out. However, the cop who was on the scene catches wind, and he says Suki wasn't even in the car that day. It was Jim driving alone. So now Jim has perjured himself, as has Suki.
Jim ultimately got convicted of perjury, was given a year probation and a year of home confinement.
Suki Sullivan also receives a year of probation.
Suki's freaking out. When she gets charged with perjury on his behalf, she's like, I'm done with this. Suki files for divorce from Jim. And the trial that follows is the juiciest, craziest gossip in town. So when it's Suki's turn to testify, she drops a bomb.
Did he talk to you about his former wife, Lisa?
Yes.
Tell me what it was he said to you about Lisa.
You can hear a pin drop. It's a big moment. After 33 months of marriage, Suki files for divorce from Jim.
Not surprisingly, it's another disputed divorce. But what might have been typical testimony about alimony takes a sudden turn in court.
Tell me what it was he said to you about Lisa.
He hired someone to verify.
I'm sorry?
He hired someone to verify her.
She claimed that he confessed to her that he had Lita killed.
This became a bombshell in the investigation of the murder of Lita Sullivan.
Suki Sullivan's divorce testimony may be big news for the FBI, but it has zero impact on the divorce judgment, which favors her husband, Jim Sullivan, in nearly every way.
His divorce was complete, but his life for turmoil was just beginning.
The opulent ocean-facing Palm Beach Palace may look like something out of The Great Gatsby, but while we watched, a new chapter in a crime story was unfolding.
We develop information here at WSB. There's going to be a raid on Jim Sullivan's Palm Beach mansion, and that is the biggest break in the Lita Sullivan case since the murder itself.
Investigators from the FBI, Atlanta Police, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation were on the grounds of a mansion identified as that of James Sullivan.
All of a sudden, Jim Sullivan is clearly in the crosshairs of federal authorities.
They got a tip that Jim, now a convicted felon, has guns in the house. Of course, you're not allowed to have guns if you're a convicted felon. So they put together a sweeping affidavit to get a search warrant.
We did see a number of guns loaded into a car and this box carried out.
When they found the guns, he was in violation of his probation, and so he went to jail for 9 months.
All this time, a federal grand jury has been convening in Atlanta.
They've got what they found in the mansion. They got what they found in the phone records. They've got Suki Sullivan. They've got the neighbors. What they don't have are the identities of the hit team. There's a problem, though.
We, the federal government, have a 5-year statute of limitations, which is going to be up on January 16th of '92.
With 5 or 6 days to go before it expired, the U.S. attorney made a bold decision. We're going to take our best shot with what we got right now, so they indict Jim Sullivan.
Jim Sullivan is indicted on multiple counts of arranging Lita's murder for hire through interstate phone calls.
Millionaire James V. Sullivan is on trial in connection with an alleged murder for hire plot. Here he arrives for the first day of trial testimony.
It was a trial that transfixed Atlanta. I mean, it was something we were covering on basically a daily basis. But we couldn't have it on camera because it's federal court.
It looks like the family is finally going to have some accountability for the murder of their daughter, Lita.
The prosecution suggests the killers were calling Sullivan from the rest stop to say the job was done. The defense suggests otherwise.
Jim Sullivan is lawyered up with the best criminal defense lawyers that you can find anywhere in Atlanta and maybe in the whole country.
There is no evidence at this point in this case who placed that call or whether that call was placed by anyone connected with the crime.
The prosecutor spent 2 weeks telling their side of the story.
Suki, the woman he married months after Lita's death, delivered some of the most dramatic testimony the jury has heard.
They build what they feel like is a really strong case.
And then a big bombshell hits.
The judge says, I'm forced to dismiss this case for lack of evidence.
Judge Marvin Shub ruled that, in effect, even if Sullivan may have been involved in the murder for hire, the government fell short in proving the phone calls related to the murder.
Well, this is one of the most difficult decisions I had to make because I firmly believe in the jury system.
And then he looks at Jim and he says, you've been acquitted.
This was ultra shocking.
Suddenly it's over, and Jim is a free man.
I want everyone listening to this to know that I am absolutely innocent. I had nothing to do with Lita's death. Her death was a great tragedy, and I thank God and my attorneys that this ordeal is over.
The family at that point, I guess, is just sort of at a loss. How devastating was that for them?
They felt like the justice system had let them down.
I was not expecting this. It's extremely difficult.
The system today is weighed in the favor of the defense.
James Sullivan seems to have gotten away with murder.
But Lita's parents aren't giving up.
They file a wrongful death suit in Palm Beach, Florida, and they win.
We, the jury, return the following verdict.
The jury deems that Jim is guilty of wrongful death.
Total damages of the estate of Lita McClinton Sullivan, $4 million.
But Sullivan is able to hide his assets and not pay any of the civil judgment.
Jim Sullivan appealed their civil judgment, and he won by having the Florida court say that they had filed it after the Florida statute of limitations.
Once again, Jim has wiggled out of any responsibility, and the family is left dumbfounded.
Until
a call is received out of the blue.
A young woman comes forward. It proved to be the break in the case that everyone was looking for.
"11 years have gone by since Lita Sullivan was gunned down on her doorstep when a tip comes in from a town 700 miles away.
A call is received out of the blue, and the individual calling is an attorney in Beaumont, Texas. He has a receptionist whose name is Belinda Trahan, who has told him a very unusual story about her boyfriend, Tony Harwood.
Belinda and Tony lived together in Albemarle, North Carolina, and he was a long-distance truck driver for North American Van Lines.
He basically drove a moving truck.
Belinda tells her boss about a time that Tony came home from a long-haul trucking trip and said that a rich white man in Florida offered to pay him to, quote, take care of his black wife in Georgia. At the time, Belinda didn't believe it. She thought he must be cheating on her.
Belinda thought that it was Tony just trying to get out of town and go down to Atlanta to the strip bars.
Until he took her to meet this rich white guy in a diner somewhere, and he got a wad full of money.
She says he sits down briefly in their booth and gives Tony Harwood the balance owed for the hit on the man's wife.
Belinda Trahan tells her boss that soon after this bizarre trip, she broke up with Tony Harwood and moved to Texas. But now, 11 years later, she says that he mysteriously reached out to her again, asking her to meet him at a nearby truck stop.
She's afraid that he may commit harm to her.
And it's this new tip from Belinda Trahan that sends Georgia authorities to the Lone Star State, turning up the heat on an otherwise cold case.
Georgia Bureau of Investigator Agent John Lang takes a detective from the Atlanta Police Department and goes down to Texas to talk to Belinda.
She was with Tony When they met this mysterious man at this diner that they were meeting at, we wanted to show her a lineup of pictures in hopes that she could pick Sullivan out of it.
And she takes her pink fingernail and taps right on Jim Sullivan's face and says, "This is the man."
My plan of attack was to get some recordings with her and Tony. So we got her to get in touch with Tony again.
She's talking to him and trying to coax information out of him, knowing John Lang is listening on her end. And Tony gives enough information that places him at the scene at the time.
We had the phone calls with Tony. She picked Jim Sullivan out of the lineup, but there was still more investigation to do. We really didn't know who Tony Harwood was.
John Lang knows that Tony worked at North American Van Lines. So he calls up North American Van Lines and he says, "Hey, you don't happen to have your records from 11 years ago?" And the guy says, "Yeah, there's some boxes full of files up in a musty attic. You're more than welcome to go poke around."
We went up into a hot attic and opened the first box that I went through. And about the third document I looked at was Jim Sullivan. His address was on it, Palm Beach, Florida. His signature was on it, and Tony Harwood's signature was on it.
He finds a bill of lading showing that Tony Harwood moved furniture for Jim Sullivan 2 months before the murder. And it's the paper trail he needs. It's like the jackpot.
Astounding. I don't know any other way to explain it. I mean, open this box and like the third record I look at, here it is. I mean, it just like it was meant to be.
On a Sunday morning in April of 1998, John Lang and local authorities go knock on Tony's door in Albemarle, North Carolina. Tony answers the door.
And he said, "You know, I've been waiting on you boys for a long time."
They take Tony to the Albemarle police station. Lang interviews Tony for 3 hours in this tiny room. But at the end of the day, Tony admits to taking money from Jim, $25,000, to take care of Lita. He also tells the detectives that he wasn't the one to pull the trigger, but that he was there the day of the murder.
He went through the whole case. And throughout the interview, he incriminated himself even more. I mean, admitted that he was there. He knew what happened. So he was arrested for murder of Lita Sullivan. And we took him back to Atlanta that day.
After Tony's arrest, things moved pretty quickly.
We are here today to announce the issuance of a warrant for the arrest of James V. Sullivan.
They got enough to get Sullivan. And now, boom, Sullivan hears of this and blows. He takes off.
We have reason to believe that he's outside the country.
He's just gone, vanished.
Investigators say he could be anywhere.
He is nowhere to be found.
We certainly do not know where Mr. Sullivan is. We have reason to believe that he's outside the country.
More than a decade after his wife Lita was murdered, Jim Sullivan seems to be playing a game of catch me if you can with authorities.
There is an international manhunt for James Sullivan.
Well, Jim moved to Costa Rica, actually bought a home there. In 1998, after an arrest warrant was issued for him, he immediately, like that night, went to Panama.
If you have any information concerning James Sullivan, you should contact the nearest U.S. Embassy or consulate.
We didn't know exactly where he had flown from Panama, and we didn't know exactly where he had gone.
His trail goes cold.
They put him on Interpol, and it was just cold.
They've tapped phone lines, anybody that he might have called, and he's called no one, not even his mother.
There was a few tips that came in. The tips are just dead ends.
The McClintons, they're dumbfounded that this guy could, get away again.
But in late 1999, with Sullivan still completely off the grid, the heartbroken Emery and Joanne McClinton do get some good news.
Last week came this, a court decision reinstating a $4 million judgment against Jim Sullivan in connection with a wrongful death case brought in effect by Lita's estate.
Lita's family and law enforcement officials hope that a renewed hunt for Sullivan's money will help smoke him out.
Where you find Sullivan's money, you're going to find him close by.
But even this goes nowhere.
Fast forward to 2002. There is no sign of Jim Sullivan.
We tried every effort in our arsenal to try and locate him, to put him on the FBI's wanted list, but to also put him on the top 10 list, which is very unusual. You don't get on the top 10 list very easily. Then we also featured him on America's Most Wanted.
The most recent picture we have of Sullivan is at least 5 years old, so the FBI age-enhanced this photo, which may bear a closer resemblance to Sullivan's appearance today. If you recognize James Sullivan from either of these photographs, call us now at 1-800-CRIME-TV.
A man sees America's Most Wanted on television and goes, I know that guy. He lives in my condo complex in Chiam, Thailand. And sure enough, he calls the authorities.
He went to Panama, to Venezuela, and eventually to Thailand, where he got a beachfront condo.
He spends his days walking on the beach, sitting by the pool, occasionally playing tennis, as though no other troubles in the world. The Thai police knock on Jim Sullivan's door on July 2nd, 2002, and say, you're under arrest. The McClintons can hardly believe it.
We found out from the FBI, and that was a moment of jubilation.
15 years is a long time to concentrate on the loss of a daughter. And we had determination, and we had the will, but we also had all of these individuals behind us.
Almost as soon as Jim Sullivan is arrested for murder, Tony Harwood, who has continued to deny being the trigger man, agrees to a plea deal.
Tony kind of sees the writing on the wall.
Harwood just decided that he would plead guilty, the negotiated plea for manslaughter, and that, in turn, that he would testify against Jim Sullivan.
It took 2 years, but he finally was extradited back to Atlanta in 2004.
He got off the plane. He was wearing a single shoe because he had such terrible gout in his foot. But he gets off and gets taken to Fulton County Jail. And there's this sort of cumulative sigh of relief.
To be clear, Sullivan being tried for murder in Georgia is not double jeopardy. For one thing, it is a state case, and the previous one was a federal case, and that specifically was for arranging Lita's murder for hire over the phone.
The elected district attorney appoints me, along with a couple of other lawyers, to prosecute the case.
This was a huge puzzle of a case.
Right.
How did your puzzle-solving skills come into play?
There's no cutting corners, and you spread the pieces out, and then you figure out what fits and what doesn't fit. And that's kind of what the prosecution of James Sullivan was like. It was putting together all these different pieces so that we could make sure that the prosecution of the case was done accurately and with integrity.
What concerned you going into this trial?
He was rich. He was a white male. He had escaped the federal authorities before, and he had two of the best criminal defense attorneys representing him.
They are sharp, and if they can find a way out, they're going to find a way out.
There will not be one shred of physical evidence that links Jim Sullivan to this crime.
Jim has eluded justice so many times that there's a real palpable fear that he's going to get away with it, that he's going to elude justice again.
After nearly 20 years, Jim Sullivan is finally on trial here in Fulton County for the murder of his wife, Lida. For her heartbroken parents, this day couldn't come soon enough.
The pain, believe it or not, it increases. It does not decrease. The shock decreases. The depression decreases. But the pain continues.
It was an A-team of prosecutors, great courtroom performers.
Clint Rucker was the lead prosecutor, and Anna Grain, Kelly Hill, Sheila Ross.
And the evidence will show that the person who sent that hitman to Lida's door is the only person in the world who could have profited from her death. It is the only person in the world who met Tony Harwood and paid him off for killing her. And is the only person in the world who fled halfway around the world to avoid facing you.
Jury was 9 women and 3 men.
The jury is also racially mixed.
Jim Sullivan had Ed Garland and Don Samuel, again, the people who won that big courtroom victory against the feds.
What the state relies on is 2 types of evidence. Circumstantial evidence, and then the testimony of con men.
The state initially started out the nature of the crime and what happened that morning.
I heard 2 sounds. They sounded to me like steel hitting steel.
I just didn't want to believe that it was a gun. And so I hesitated for a second, and then I really knew that it was a gun.
She was able to squeeze my hand each time I spoke with her, like she understood what I was saying. And for many, many years after this, I thought that's all it was. And then one day I realized that she was comforting me more than I was comforting her. That was the sort of lady I felt she was.
They had the phone calls that the FBI had found.
There was a call from this room to Mr. Sullivan's home at 7:44 in the morning.
But all this testimony notwithstanding, it's Belinda Trahan and Tony Harwood who everybody wants to hear from.
Belinda Trahan was the most important witness in the case.
He told me that some white guy who wanted to take out his black wife. I didn't believe it.
Why not?
I've been with him for 3 years, over 3 years. I mean, I figured he met someone because we were on the outs.
Most chilling about Belinda's testimony is that she confirms that there was at least one failed attempt on Lida's life.
She testifies that when Tony had gone to Lida's house on January 13th, then she didn't come to the door. They drove back to North Carolina and told Belinda that, you know, it didn't work.
But Belinda testifies that hearing that from her boyfriend left her incredulous.
I said, just don't even lie to me. I said, because anyone knows that if you wanted to get a woman to answer the door, all you would have to do is take flowers to the door.
Did you in any way mean for that to be a suggestion as to how to get the job accomplished?
No, not at all.
Here's Belinda Trahan, and she is falling on the sword about what she did.
She suggested the flowers.
She suggested the flowers, and she admitted that on the stand.
You brought in the diner booth where they sat. Wow. Why couldn't you just tell the jury and show pictures?
I want you to see the puzzle once it's all put together. Yeah, I can show you the box. I can show you a photograph of it. But when I put it together and I show it to you, you'll never forget it.
Pushed the paper across the table like this, and then Tony put his hand on it and took it from there.
And there was a particular moment when she is asked to stand up in court and identify the person she witnessed give Tony Harwood an envelope full of money.
Please, point him out.
It's right there. He can't even make eye contact.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant, James Sullivan.
But if prosecutors feel like Belinda Trahan's testimony is helping their case, they have to know that it's just as big a risk to put Tony Harwood on the stand.
Can you show the jurors the body language Mr. Sullivan used and the tone of voice, if it's possible, that he used when he was explaining to you that his wife, Lita, was a problem?
You know, I've got this wife of mine up in Atlanta, and she is just trying to take everything I've got. And I don't know what to do about it. I need someone to take care of my problem. Do you know anybody that can possibly take care of my problem for me? Because I need some help here.
We could prove Tony Harwood and James Sullivan actually met each other. So I spent the first part of Tony Harwood's examination confirming his signature on the hotel receipt.
And the signature, Johnny Kerr.
The fact that he actually went to the flower shop.
Who actually went inside the flower shop to purchase the flowers?
I did.
They had Tony Harwood saying that he was the one who made the collect call to Jim Sullivan's house.
What did you say to him?
I said, Merry Christmas. And he said, I understand. And that was it.
What were you trying to convey to Mr. Sullivan by giving him that signal, those code words?
That his problem was taken care of.
The defense had their chance to cross-examine Harwood. Not a single question. The two key witnesses were, of course, Belinda Trahan and Tony Harwood. And so, in closing arguments, the defense assailed their credibility.
You should reject everything that came out of his mouth. Harwood says envelope in the bathroom. She says an envelope at this booth over here.
Garland presents to the jury a letter-sized envelope stuffed with bills. Harwood had said it was all cash in $20 bills.
See, oops, some of it fell out. There's some more. It won't fit in an envelope. The whole story just doesn't make sense.
In your closing arguments, you actually brought in a doorbell. Why? What was the point?
I wanted the jurors to have that sense of what Lita Sullivan experienced right before her murder.
An ordinary moment.
In an ordinary moment. The second reason why I did it is because James Sullivan liked to read books. And one of his favorite authors wrote a book called For Whom the Bell Tolls.
I'm going to ask you through your verdict of guilty to each and every count to tell James Vincent Sullivan for whom the bell tolls. Tell him that it tolls for thee. For you. For you.
And then I rang the doorbell 3 times.
As the jury goes out to deliberate, I think there's a real fear. Are they going to do it this time, or is it going to be like every other time?
I do not see this as a slam dunk for the state.
There's this anxiety. You're worried, but you're hopeful. I don't care who you talk to that does this kind of work as a litigator. They will tell you, oh, I can look at the jurors and I probably can tell you what they're going to do. No, you don't. You don't.
This is breaking news.
We do have breaking news at this hour. The jury having reached a verdict in the trial of Jim Sullivan.
The jury came back within a few hours on the same day.
It was so silent, and the tension was just palpable.
there's this anxiety. You don't know what it's going to be. You don't know how it's going to turn out. And you're worried, but you're hopeful.
It's hard not to think of Lita's family, her parents especially, after so many fits and starts to win justice for their firstborn child. It comes down to this moment.
The judge says,
"Ma'am, would you publish the verdict?"
And then from that moment until they get finished, nobody is breathing.
Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Vincent Sullivan, guilty of malice murder.
I got a chance to hug Emory McClinton. I had never been hugged so tight before. This was his baby. And we had finally, after 19 years, brought that man a sense of satisfaction. I'll never forget it. The conviction of James Sullivan was the biggest puzzle that I had solved in my career. And it is one that gave me the most satisfaction that I had ever experienced as a prosecutor.
The court hears victim impact statements. What a loss it was to have Lita gone from their lives.
I dream of Lita often. She is smiling and walking in my direction, and I in hers. But we never reach each other.
The jury came back and gave him life in prison without the possibility of parole.
I am so very pleased, and I'm happy. What we were waiting for was something in our judicial system, something to happen and to bring it all together, and that's what you see today.
Why did it take 20 years, do you think?
It goes back to the resources.
Yeah, privilege?
White privilege, completely. He knew how to manipulate people, and he had the resources to do that.
You've got a black victim, you've got a white defendant. Did race hover in this courtroom over this case at all?
I think in our criminal justice system, unfortunately, race always permeates throughout a case. But I'm thankful to say the evidence in the case overcame that racial component.
They never received any money. Is there money? Where is this money?
He's been able to secret his money. For the McClintons, seeing him rot in a prison in South Georgia brings them a whole lot more satisfaction.
This is a woman who you never met, I've never met, most of the people involved in this case never met her, and yet her life really made an impact. When somebody dies in this kind of manner, they don't stop being a member of the family, they don't stop being a member of the community, they never stop mattering.
David, Tony Harwood was released from prison in 2018 after serving his 20-year sentence. Jim Sullivan remains behind bars with no possibility of parole.
As for the other two men who were seen at that flower shop, no one else was ever charged. That is our program for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा दे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा दे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी खाक समाए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए हाय हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया 2 दिन दी हाय हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया 2 दिन दी दुनिया 2 दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया 2 दिन दी ऊंचे लम्हे महल बना दे ऊंचे लम्हे महल बना दे दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमा दे दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमा दे हाय कुछ नहीं खड़दे नाल दुनिया 2 दिन दी हाय कुछ नहीं खड़दे नाल दुनिया 2 दिन दी ओ दुनिया 2 दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया 2 दिन दी दुनिया देंदी दुख बतेरे दुनिया देंदी दुख बतेरे वीरा कोलू वीर नखेड़े वीरा कोलू वीर नखेड़े आए मावा तू विछड़े लाल दुनिया 2 दिन दी आए मावा तू विछड़े लाल दुनिया 2 दिन दी ओ दुनिया 2 दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया 2 दिन दी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी हाय कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया 2 दिन दी ओह कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया 2 दिन दी हसना रोना गम लाचारी हसना रोना गम लाचारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी हाय कंजरी दी मिसाल दुनिया 2 दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया 2 दिन दी ओ दुनिया 2 दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया 2 दिन दी ओह कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया 2 दिन दी पुत वे तुड़ा नी मिट्टी दा वीरा पुत तुड़ा नी मिट्टी दा वीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया 2 दिन दी हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुल्तान भी आए बड़े बड़े सुल्तान भी आए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो